So whether you're looking to establish a new garden, modify existing landscape, or just rectify a problem that you have in your garden or lawn or vegetated areas, a great way to solve that is by collecting a soil sample and sending it off for a chemical analysis. So the tools you would want to have if you're going to be sampling in your landscape are a bucket, a hand trowel or shovel, or maybe a soil knife. If you're going to be sampling deeper, you might want a big shovel or a spade, some sealable plastic bags, a marker, and maybe some masking tape. Before you start sampling though, you would want to create a schematic of the area you plan to analyze. I recommend this because we often have front lawns, back lawns that are sometimes managed differently, maybe some wooded or shrubby areas, and then a vegetable garden. So how you manage the landscape and the types of plants you want to grow will determine how you sample on your landscape. So the key for sampling is section off and sample unique areas separately. Then also plan to take about 6 to 8 smaller samples for that entire area. You're going to create a composite sample for that one area. Then take into consideration what the soil physical properties are of that area. Is one part of your garden have a higher clay content than another? Because if so, you'd want to sample those differently. If you're establishing a new garden, if you want to plant half in blueberries and say half in root vegetables, those require different chemical or fertility recommendations and characteristics, so you'd want to sample those separately as well. So when you're sampling, the sample depth is going to vary based on what you plan to grow in that area and how you manage it. We generally recommend about 4 inches for a lawn, sampling down to about 4 to 6 or 8 inches for a garden, and down to about 12 inches for establishing new trees or sampling in wooded areas. So you want to collect 6 to 8 smaller samples, about a handful, from different spots within an area. You'll place them in a bucket, mix them together, and that is your composite sample for that one area. Next, you want to label your bag that you're going to put your sample in. Include your name, the location that your sample is from, and the depth to which you sampled. Using a quart or maybe a gallon-sized sealable plastic bag, put in 2 to 3 cups of your mixed sample, seal it, and send it off to a reputable soil testing lab. So after you send your soil off to the testing lab and you get your data back, there are some things to look for on your soil test report. They can be a little daunting. Each row represents your different samples. The first thing you want to look for on your test report is for the soil pH. This affects how well your plants will grow in your soil because it tells you how acidic or basic your soil is. It will also affect your microorganisms in the soil, the decomposition rate, and some nutrient availability in your soil. Some other things to look for on a soil test report are the cation exchange capacity. This gives you an idea of the relative fertility of your soil. The higher this number is, the better. And then also look at some of the nutrient concentrations that take up most of your data tables. These will often be in parts per million and include concentrations of your essential plant nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, potassium, and so on. Sampling and testing your soil is the only good way to really determine if you have any nutrient deficiencies in your soil and how to properly apply soil amendments.